can see my plugin shows up here under plugins. So it's not a MIDI effect, it's a plugin. Of course, it's for an audio track. You can put it on the track with audio, or you can put it on your master output track. It makes no difference. You don't have to process the audio in any way unless you don't have inverse RIAA. I can apply that as the audio passes through, but you're best to do that analog instead of digital. Otherwise, you might want to use a plugin to do elliptical EQ, but I can also implement that at some point down the road. So let's show you what the actual interface looks like. Here we are. You can see you can do half speeds, you can do 78, you can specify your pitch, although with VMS-80 that's ignored, and actually just these two values are inspected. And really VMS-80 is just maintaining 0.5 between the two passages, the currently cutting and then 4 back. So if currently cutting is number 5, then, or excuse me, number 1, then 4 back would be number 5, and that would be where the grooves overlap each other. And so with VMS-80 it's interleaved, and the interleaving leaves this much space at the point of the closest contact between the two grooves for that section. You can specify a latency because you can actually use this either with track playback here in the DAW with audio in the track, or you can use this with an input and use a tape machine. And you can have the tape machine preview head go through this effect, and no audio that's playing out would be used. Only the audio from your tape deck that you would normally output to your cutter head will go to your cutter head. Your preview audio will come into here and be processed, and this can then control an external pitch system. So this VST talks to an external device over USB, and right now it's just communicating pitch and depth corrections. I'm about to implement the normal start-stop, echo, fast, and time as buttons, and then also as a MIDI effect. So you'll be able to drag and drop onto a MIDI track and sequence MIDI notes, and those notes will trigger the different functions like start-stop or time or fast or echo. So without further ado, you can see I have RIAA recording EQ processing applied. You can see that I am going to control depth so that we actually see some depth. I'm going to enter in a bass groove width of 2 mils. You can also, just like on a VMS system, make adjustments. So if you want to augment either like say 0.8 or 1.2 or something like that, you can totally do that. And I'll show you the results in a second. So what's going to happen is it's going to take a half revolution, so 2 quarter turns of preview, and then once that 2 quarter turns expires, you'll actually see audio passed to the output. So you'll see nothing while it's doing its preview for 2 quarter turns, and then you'll start to see something come out. If you hit stop, so if you have a panic scenario and you have to stop audio, once you hit stop, nothing passes. So even though we're previewing, and even though we've got latency set up, and even though the output here is latent from here, if you hit stop, there's no effect trail. It just ends immediately. So let me go ahead and hit play. Now you're not going to hear it because I don't have it set up over the speakers right now, but suffice it to say, everything is working. So you can see on quarter turns, it's actually calculating lines per inch here, and it's doing depth correction. Now, if I put this to a 3 mil groove, which is where I would normally cut dance music, once we get through enough of the quarter turns here, you can see that correction has now seeded into the data, and we're getting a lower value. If I turn off depth correction, we don't see anything. If I turn it back on and I do something like 1.5, actually, okay, it looks like I need to fix that. That should be affecting the depth correction. Let me do this though. It's going to definitely affect lateral for lateral, and that should bring our lines per inch down. It looks like it's not. So it looks like these guys are not working right now. I'll have to fix that. Like for instance, if I did that, that should bring our values way down, and it's not. So I'll have to fix that. But for instance, if I change this to VMS 70, it's definitely going to start calculating some lower lines per inch. And so right there, you can see the savings between those two systems. It's pretty amazing. You can also do fixed pitch, wherein it's not going to change the pitch at all. And if you want to do fixed pitch and fixed depth, that would be that right there. You can see you can process the audio as stereo, as summed mono, so summed and then same thing on left and right. Just pulling the left or just pulling the right and copying it to both channels. So I have a little bit of work left, as you can see, but not much. And once I'm done fixing these, I will actually work on the firmware and vary the intensity of an LED via PWM based off of this value that's being communicated over USB. So stay tuned. Yeah, amazing progress.